Great. Good morning. Thank you all for joining us today. I want to say a special thank you to our friends at the Cleveland Teachers Union for hosting us and for being great partners, and to our friends at CCPD for joining us this morning too. I'm honored to be here this morning with Ohio's next Attorney General and Cleveland area native Jeff Crossman, and Ohio Legislative Black Caucus's President, Cleveland Representative Juanita Brent, and our good friend Daniel Malley from the Cleveland AFL-CIO. With nearly 2 weeks until the May 3rd primary and voting underway, voters are inundated over the next few days with commercials, with flyers, with yard signs, with campaign speeches, leaving many of them to wonder who's really on our side. To us, that answer is simple. At a time when too many Ohioans are struggling to make ends meet, worrying about high costs and paying for things like prescription drugs, Mike DeWine and his fellow Republicans are making you pay the price for their corruption, while Democrats are laser focused on investing in working families. Under Mike DeWine's leadership, Ohioans are paying billions, yes, that's billions with a B, for GOP corruption, as Republican politicians merely look to line their own pockets and those of their special interest friends, all the while leaving Ohio's working families behind. For example, with every day that passes, Mike DeWine is more deeply connected to the largest public corruption scandal in state history, a scandal that is costing you $287,000 every single day. DeWine appointed a guy who worked with the energy industry for years to lead a commission that was charged with overseeing them and keeping them honest. And that same guy DeWine appointed took a $4 million bribe from First Energy, a bribe that you could be paying for on your energy bills today. DeWine's top-level staff were also named in connection to the scandal. One of his top aides even resigned last year after it was made public that he worked for a dark money group to help orchestrate the corruption scheme. DeWine had dinner with two First Energy executives blamed for the scandal, the two guys who allegedly ordered the bribes, but DeWine conveniently can't remember what was discussed in that meeting. You could pay almost $2 billion for his bribery scheme by 2030, and Mike DeWine can't even be bothered to tell us what he knew and when. But that's not all. Here's a small sampling of the price you're paying for other ongoing corruption scandals in Mike DeWine's State House. $9 billion for special interest tax giveaways that mostly benefit for-profit corporations, and $1.85 billion in tax breaks for the wealthy, including wealthy GOP lawmakers themselves. $118 million in improper Medicaid payments to ineligible deceased people. $20 million for the election chaos created by Republicans who refuse to pass fair maps and force our state to hold two primary elections. And my personal favorite, $39,000 for Mike DeWine's private tax-funded airplane travel to taxpayer-funded photo ops in his first year alone. That's nearly $11 billion that Ohioans are footing the bill for, and that's only the beginning. Here in this room, I know many of you have questions going unanswered when it comes to teacher pensions. Since 2017, you haven't received a cost of living increase, making matters worse. No one in the state is giving you a clear reason or being transparent when it comes to requests to review state teacher retirement system documents. Yet again, we see Mike DeWine and the Republicans leading our state selling out to his special interest friends, instead of looking out for teachers and hardworking Ohio families. While Ohioans are worried about putting food on the table and paying for prescription medication, it's clear that we can't afford 4 more years of Mike DeWine or his Republican buddies controlling our state government. The good news, Ohioans like Jeff and Juanita are offering a better way forward. We're creating jobs, making historic investments in Ohio infrastructure, putting money in your pockets and cutting your taxes, all while fighting for you. We have a slate of candidates who are ready to tell you their story and show you that they're on your side. And with that, I'll turn things over to Ohio's next Attorney General, Jeff Crossman.
Thank you, Chair Walters. I appreciate it. It's a pleasure to be here this morning, especially standing up with so many fierce advocates for working people here in Ohio that stand here before you today. We want to talk about the price Ohioans continue to pay for Mike DeWine's ongoing corruption scandal in the State House. And, there's been a complete lack of any meaningful action by our statewide electeds, especially my opponent, Dave Yost, the Attorney General of the state. Their failures continue to cost Ohioans, the Chair said, $287,000 every single day. That's $2 million a week, and we're fast approaching $300 million total for the largest public corruption scandal in the state's history. Their failures as elected officials in this state are holding Ohio back. We cannot find our way back to creating a place of opportunity for our Ohioans until we have accountability for the ongoing corruption. In fact, the lack of accountability is simply staggering. Despite the fact that First Energy has been found to have provided $61 million and counting, as we learn more information, $61 million in bribes paid to the House GOP, folks like Larry Householder. We've had this situation where $61 million in bribes paid to secure a $1 billion bailout, one that First Energy admitted later that it didn't even actually need. So we've seen, as the chair laid out, the former party chair of the state of Ohio, Matt Borges, Dave Yost, former campaign manager, by the way, he's been indicted. Sam Randazzo, the former head of the PUCO, Mike DeWine was warned that he was no good, warned that he was corrupted by being in the pocket of big utilities for so long. He was warned, and now First Energy admits that they bribed him. We've had a Speaker of the House kicked out of the Ohio House for the first time since the Civil War, an effort, by the way, I was happy and proud to lead the charge on, and he's waiting trial for his crimes, alleged crimes. So all of these things, have happened under the Ohio Republican watch over the last 20 years, and a lot of folks may be desensitized, but these are the ways that Ohio is being held back from CoinGate, the charter school online scam, ECOT, to payday lending, and now this, the largest public corruption scandal in the state's history. The most shocking thing, the most shocking legacy of the First Energy bribery scandal is the fact that this $287,000 a day is still on the books. It's still on the books, funding 2 outdated power plants on the Ohio River, one of which is actually located in Indiana. So, I mean, think about that. Ohio taxpayers are funding an outdated power plant, one that doesn't provide any jobs for Ohioans, doesn't burn any Ohio coal, doesn't provide any benefit, one shape or form, to Ohio, yet we're paying the price of that because of the corruption that had happened. These massive subsidies remain on the books despite repeated attempts by Democrats to repeal them and Republican opposition to that. They hope Ohioans forget that every time they pay their utility bill, that they're funding another corruption tax in the state. And this is at a time when Ohioans are counting their pennies. Every dollar matters at a time when inflation is a difficult thing for people to overcome. They're mining their dollars to in a very difficult financial situation. I defy anybody to tell me what's on their electric bill. These charges are embedded. They can't be discerned from looking at it. I pulled my electric bill. It was $60-some, only a portion of that related to actual usage. Other that's it's hidden fees and things that have been buried over a lifetime of charges added to the bill. Again, because big utilities run Mike DeWine and Dave Yost. Go back and look at their campaign finance reports. My opponent, Dave Yost, instead of seeking accountability for all of this, has been using his office to run his own pay-to-play scam in filing politically motivated lawsuits, and delaying, for example, American Rescue Plan dollars for communities, to trying to take away people's health care, all so he can get campaign contributions for the attorneys that are filing these lawsuits with your state tax dollars. DeWine and Yost are not protecting Ohio tax dollars because they're too busy playing politics to do their jobs, and every Ohioan is paying the price for this. Ohio Democrats are offering a better way forward. We understand that Ohioans are looking for a leader, someone who's going to fight like hell to combat corruption and hold special interests like this accountable for their corruption. Ohio Democrats are seeking accountability in our government because we know we can create good paying jobs that actually keep our college educated students in Ohio rather than leaving the state. We know we can create communities that allow our seniors to retire with safety and security. And we know that Ohio can be #1 in the country in opportunity instead of what it is today, #1 in state corruption. Rather than caving to corporate and special interests, we're laser focused on providing opportunities for our families here in the state of Ohio and our workers in the state of Ohio. We're putting people first rather than special interests. From now until the election, we're going to continue to talk about this. It's important for Ohioans to know what's happening and how Ohio is being held back. For now, I want to turn over to my colleague, someone who I'm honored to serve with in the Ohio House, and have served with for the last 4 years, State Representative Juanita Brown.
Thank you. My name is Juanita Brand. I just happen to be a state representative as well as the president of the Ohio Legislative Black Caucus, the oldest Black caucus in the United States. I'm so glad to be here with my brother, Representative Jeff Crossman, who will be the next Attorney General, and my chairwoman, Walters, and Dan O'Malley. It's such an honor to be here, and I think it's so stoic of what we stand for, that we are standing in the Cleveland Teachers Union, of all places that we are talking about corruption. We're here with the teachers because the foundation of our community starts with our schools, the investment we make with our students. Right now, we've heard from our chairwoman, from our new Attorney General coming up in the future, but right now, here as Ohio Democrats, we are drawing a clear contrast between the Republicans and the Democrats. The Democrats, we are working for the working families. We put the interests of Ohioans first, not last, not an afterthought, but first, with where we do our events, with what we make focus. Most of the work starts right here in the local communities, handling local issues at the local level. We know there is a Republican way to patch things, but we know there's a Democratic way to actually address the concerns of the people. That's what we're doing today. We're saying as Democrats, we are fighting for you in every form or fashion. While Republicans sell out to special interests, let me say that again, while Republicans are selling out to special interests, Democrats are fighting for you, fighting for your family, fighting for your loved ones, fighting for you to stay in your home, fighting for your grandmother to know that she doesn't have to leave the community that she has raised you and her children and her grandchildren in. The cost of corruption is not just the money we're paying out of your own pocket, it's an investment that the state of Ohio is not making into Ohio. And so when we're not making those investments, we're not putting Ohioans first. Democrats, we are saying we are putting the Ohioans first. There are issues that residents right now face every day that we need to address. Infant mortality, we're not right-sizing the amount of money for that. The salaries for teachers, we're not right-sizing what we need to pay for our teachers. Public transit, we are not putting the necessary money for public transit. Every time we think of a different company that's coming to our area, we have to think, can people get to that job safely? When we are looking at the local government fund, every time I drive in a community and I hit a pothole, I think to myself, if our state was giving more money to our local government fund, then my mayor, my city council person could use that money to fix those roads. Fix the roads. Home ownership. If we really want to put Ohioans first, we gotta make home ownership a process that is obtainable for everyone, no matter what your salary is. That has to be putting people first. Childhood poverty. Cleveland is the poorest city, metropolitan city in the nation. What are we doing to resolve that? To put Ohio first. Put Clevelanders first. Put Ohio first. Put our people first. We are not addressing that. Republicans are not addressing that. And we're telling you what the answer is. It's us Democrats. So as we are getting ready for this election cycle, I'm just so glad to be able to have these people fighting with me. And for those who do or do not know Red Crossman, he is a fighter. Sometimes I be having to hold him back because he's trying to fight, but we got some real fighters on my left and my right who are here to say enough is enough. And as you think about how you're gonna pay to get your child to school, because now your school district doesn't have a bus that comes to pick your child up. Now you're trying to make those decisions if your mother or your parents can stay in your home if they have to go to a nursing home. Think about this. The same decisions that you are making in your own private life are being affected by these problematic Republicans who are putting corruption over people. So when you think about your paycheck, think about these problematic Republicans and the cost of corruption and what it's costing us every day. Thank you so much, Chairwoman.
If I may add, last night I saw an article in a national publication, The Hill, that talked about what was happening in Ohio. I mean, Ohio has become a national joke. Not because of the work that we're doing. We're pushing back on some of this Republican corruption. But the fact that the Republicans continue to ignore the needs of the people of Ohio and in favor of crafting a system where they hold on to power. And that's what all this gerrymandering stuff's been about. It's what the district's been about. They don't want accountability to the people of Ohio. It's up to us to deliver the message to the people of Ohio, to hear it, and offer a better choice forward. Because Ohioans deserve to be represented by people who listen to their concerns and actually address the problems that Representative Brennan was talking about. We hear it every day from our constituents in our districts. We hear it from across from Ohio. And I've actually heard from constituents in other people's districts, Republican members' districts, that they don't even hear back from those folks. So how can we actually address the problems in Ohio if we don't have elected officials that are accountable to the people of the state? We deserve better. We deserve better to be a joke nationally. We deserve better in the state of Ohio. A once proud state, #1 in this country for opportunity. We can get back there again, but we can't do it unless we have some accountability in the state government.
Thanks. I just quickly, first of all, thank you to the Cleveland Teachers Union and President Sherry Obrensky for hosting here today. The examples of corruption that we've heard about today are unfortunately just the latest chapter in a long, long legacy of corruption at the hands of the Republicans who've led this state for the last 30 years. And I'm glad that this is the theme of the event here today, because this isn't just a moral outrage. We're talking about actual money that's being taken out of the pockets of working people in the state, being taken out of the classrooms around our state, where our students are trying to learn and our teachers are trying to manage very limited and precious resources as it is. Actual money that's being added onto the utility bills of our people here in the state of Ohio. And I think after 30 or 40 years, if we've learned nothing, it's that the folks who have been responsible for this corruption will not be shamed into doing the right thing. We need to change the people who are down there. And so I'm proud that the AFL-CIO has endorsed the entire slate of constitutional officers from the Democratic Party. And as Representative Brent mentioned, the local government fund is another example where in my hometown of Lakewood, we have lost more from local government fund cuts on an annual basis than we lost when our largest employer left town. Think about how hard we have to fight to bring jobs into our communities and scrap for every job and every tax dollar. And the fact that we've lost that funding because of the corruption in the state that has so dearly cost the voters and the people in the state of Ohio, again, not just cost them in terms of the fact that we have a government that's just not working in this state, but truly cost them in the sense that our tax dollars are having to go towards that corruption rather than the vital services that the people of this state rely on. So again, we are more than ready for a change. We are thrilled to be supporting the not only Representative Crossman, but every other Democratic candidate for the constitutional offices here in Ohio. And appreciate being here today, and again, appreciate the leadership that the people on my left and right have shown in advocating for working people here in Cleveland and throughout Ohio.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Tim.